Regular meeting of the Common Council, March 15th. Call to order. Here.
Councilmember Lynn.
Here.
Councilmember Davies.
Here.
Councilmember Rosetta.
Here.
Councilmember Carson. Councilmember
Here.
Councilmember
Here.
Councilmember
Here.
Councilmember Present.
So Cam, very nice to have you here. Would you join us? Would you actually lead us? I'd like to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to rearrange the agenda a little bit. I think we have a couple of petitioners here. For the pre-minutes scheduled, so we have a couple petitioners here, and if you'd like to be recognized to speak, please raise your hand.
Yes, I'm Rachel Risberger, for those of you who don't know me, and I would like to speak to the council and Mayor Drenick about a meeting was hosted by Mayor Mark Drenick yesterday, March 14th, regarding his proposal to start a children's museum. The report entitled "On to the Next Step for a Proposed Museum in Downtown Oneonta" by Don Matheson, that was published by WSRK today, begins, "Oneonta Mayor Mark Drenick's vision of a downtown children's museum cleared its first hurdle. A majority of participants at Monday's meeting to discuss the proposal want to continue exploring the idea. It appears we got what we wanted," Drenick told CNY News following a meeting at SUNY's Morris Conference Center. "We will move forward." Now, this meeting was attended by the vast majority of our community's organizations that prioritize children, including Oneonta's Children's Museum, Oneonta World of Learning. This report and the mayor's comments are drastically different to the outcomes that those of us in attendance at the meeting came away with. What the organizations in attendance agreed to was the idea of a collaborative marketing effort to better advertise and support all of the varied programming and organizations that already exist. To say that we are in agreement with moving forward with a proposed museum is drastically misleading. It was not even clear that there was a next step identified at the meeting. And we would like to call on Mark Drenick and Don Matheson to publicly correct their misrepresentation of the outcome of that meeting. And it is signed by me, Rachel Risberger, Ryan Swan, Roger Chauveron, Aaron Sorensen, Samantha Harvey, Caitlin Davey.
Thank you. I will just quickly respond. Thank you very much for that, Rachel. The quote was, the context of the quote, I think was wrong and inappropriate in its positioning within that story. What I was looking for, as was identified any number of times, was a furtherance of discussion. Whether or not a vision that was put in front of folks is where we go with that. It's not of consequence to me. What we wanted to see, and what I think we did get, because that will raise their hand, was additional conversation. For me, that was the outcome I was looking for. That is what I was referencing when I was talking to Don Matheson, or any miscommunication or confusion that came of that article. On behalf, I suppose, of the reporter, I apologize, but certainly on behalf of myself, I'm sorry for that confusion. However, I do look forward to further discussion, because we are all about moving to the a higher level as we can of support for all of those who are providing entertainment and education for the children of our area. They are not only doing wonderful work, but ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, are one of our more marketable assets as we're trying to attract new residents to our community. So I appreciate everything that you do. I appreciate everything that Owl does. My apologies for the context in which my quote appeared. And with that, I thank you for your attendance and for those words. Do we have any other petitions to council? Very good. In that case, we'll move on to our first presentation. opportunity to speak. Pam, the Lendo's 3-on-3 tournament.
Just go off the PowerPoint or? Right. Didn't know how much time I was gonna present, so I'm trying to host a tournament on July 23rd and 24th this summer on Main Street. It's an interesting date because it's also the day of the Cooperstown Hall of Fame induction. So I know that first that might have posed as an issue, but I think that it's going to be great to highlight that, you know, Cooperstown has this great illustrious event. Well, now so does Oneonta. And it's also 2 weeks after our other local event, which is a Norwich 3-on-3 basketball tournament called the Norwich Gusmacker. And the reasoning why I want to do this, especially here, is because Gusmacker legally cannot even have a tournament here because of geographical restriction. So next slide. This is the flyer. I don't really have dramatic Photoshop skills, but this is my rough draft flyer that I used initially with my limited skills. So I'm gonna fine tune this when I get vendors and sponsors and potentially funding from grants, but this was my rough draft flyer for the tournament. So I'm gonna be charging $150 per team, in case people were wondering. I'm not gonna read off the slide, but basically this goes over my mission statement, which is to establish a tournament here this year with its inaugural year, and then has something for kids to look forward to, ages 5 and up, moving forward for as long as we can. Does anyone have any questions while I go? It's basically just a who, what, where, when, why. Next slide. I put this number down because, as you see, if I have 14 courts with 14 teams per court, there's going to be approximately 4 players per team. And if they bring 1 or 2 spectators on average, maybe there'll be more. This is the number of people we can expect to have if it all works in the perfect world during the event, and maybe more. Next slide. So I applied for the Otsego County Tourism Grant, but when they were asking me questions, I said, you know, I can't guarantee that I'm going to bring people in to generate overnight stays, because I also referee Section 4 sports around here. And I see that with COVID and other things that have happened, our participation is limited, and I like to call it Tri-County, Otsego Daughter County. Youth could really use another event that, you know, something they can look forward to every year and or train for it. So I'm going to try to get the schools locally first involved, and then if it doesn't fill up, I'm going to go that route. So, next slide. Games will be going for 13 minutes. All the games will be going on at the same time. Saturday is the more hectic day because everyone's going to be playing. As the games go on Sunday, the tournament will minimize because it's dumb elimination tournament. So as teams lose, they'll be venturing out. But Saturday is more of a happening day, I guess. Next slide. So we're gonna have the tournament all the way down Main Street from the corner of where Yellow Deli is, Main and Chestnut, to right around the corner of outside this building. To, as you can see on the map, we have to have the entrance open for the church next door here. So I'm gonna venture this out with the kids section outside of this building, and then we're gonna go from kids to youth to the adult section towards the end of the tournament to kind of have it. I don't want to use the word segregated, but that's what it will be in a sense. So I don't have all of my vendors finalized for this event. So along the lines, we're going to have porta potty stationed throughout the event, but I'm also going to have either food trucks and or other vendors. I reached out to the state police yesterday. They confirmed that they can bring a rollover demonstration and a crash simulator. So it's just other things I'm looking to bring into the event. So it's not just basketball, along with children's bounce houses. So just other things I can offer that will be free, and it's not necessarily just a basketball tournament, and there's going to be a lot of layover between games. So besides people going in and out of the businesses, they can still have some time to have some leisure time on Main Street. Next slide. This basically gives a rundown of what Saturday will look like. I wasn't sure when I created this slide if we were going to be closing the street Friday night. So just as a rough estimate, this might roughly change, but tournament play won't begin until 10 o'clock on Saturday. And then I have an idea to, with tournaments, they have like a break where they have an entertainment section within the tournament with a 3-point contest and a slam dunk contest. So I think that's going to be great for the tournament spectators and or the tournament participants themselves. So I think traditionally people do that at the end of the Saturday, but I might just make a whole break in the entire tournament just to focus on this 2 o'clock event. So Saturday, we should be done at 6 with the court broken down and most of it cleaned up. Next slide. All right, so just as another overview as to why, I personally did a case study. As many of you know, I used to work for the post office. I also have a small business, so I was on the Main Street route, and I firsthand saw some of the Saturday initiatives that were taking place, not last summer, but last summer and some before. So I was just thinking, and I visualized in my mind what this event could potentially be. And I think that could be great for the community. So we don't have it, and I figured why not try to make it happen. So this is what I've been planning on. Trying to get as many people as I can involved. I've also spoke with Destination Oneonta. They said they couldn't be here today, but they're going to help me with my marketing efforts. And I have connections with athletic directors for pretty much every school in the 50-mile radius. So I'm going to be looking to recruit social clubs and teams to help them in my endeavors too. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
There isn't a rain date scheduled. So from my basis of this tournament, it's basically a model of my rendition of the Norwich Gusmacher and the nationally recognized Gusmacher tournament. Their protocol is they don't use, under any circumstances, any refunds or non-refundable. I don't want to go that approach. So if in the event there is a rain out, I'm just going to have to give a partial refund to teams. And or pay it forward to the next season.
Yeah, I'll make sure you reach out to alumni associations also, because that could be a big source of people that would be interested.
Okay, thank you.
And did you speak to any of the downtown businesses?
I haven't yet. I just met yesterday for the first time, so I didn't want to gain momentum for something that I wasn't sure could even potentially happen. So
I can say that I spoke to Jim Hayner today, Green Toad, and explained what you're doing and the length of time that we'd be taking over, that you'd be taking over Main Street. And Jim is pretty indicative of how Main Street merchants are going to react. And he was very enthusiastic. I think it'll be fine. I will wind up walking around and speaking to some merchants about this in these next few days.
okay.
Yeah. I just had a question regarding like the courts and the layout, like as far as like the downtown businesses, like, I don't know, I'm just thinking about like how I play basketball. There's often like basketballs like flying, or like if you have like tables outside, or, you know, like, I guess have you like kind of considered that in a way that the courts are going to be set up, you know, that they're not going to, it's not going to be like a loose ball that falls into an old window and shatter a window, or, you know, I mean, that's just kind of like safety concerns. Like, I
Yeah,
guess it'd be my,
I have no idea the
thing.
statistical probability of something like that happening, but I would imagine on courts where athletes are very good and or very bad, the probability would be a little higher. I think that when me and Greg walked the street to see where the hoops could be to avoid man covers,
okay,
there's significant portions of Main Street where the courts would be further enough away from the sidewalk that I think that if in the event, say something happened where a person's going up for a layup, someone blocks the ball, which gives the most force in a certain direction, that would potentially have enough time to slow its momentum before it would potentially destroy a window. I would believe. I I don't know for
I
certain.
mean, I guess, but it's also
Yeah.
just like, you know, if people are coming out and hanging out on Main Street that day, you know, dine at your own risk,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah, and
you know, I mean, that's fine too. I
I'm
guess I just
hoping-
kind of was like curious about like the logistics.
I
of
hope
it.
to have enough spectators and or the scorekeeper there to also help with crisis control, or maybe spectators or someone that would, you know, interject in between something like that happening. So
Cool.
something to, I guess I'm planning to fail so it doesn't happen. So it's a great question. Thank you.
Any other questions while you're on this slide? Want to continue on?
I think that's my last slide. I didn't know much.
So are there any other questions at all?
There's one more.
You got it.
Oh, okay. Basically just talking about, again, reiterating how I'm gonna work with Destination Oneana. Word of mouth through my basketball league is really gonna help us out a lot. I have a year-round basketball league that I run seasonally. In the summertime, I have the most teams. I usually bring in anywhere from 40 teams, and each team has about 8 guys. So 8 guys or girls, I have to tell my league too. So I'm looking to get a significant portion of people through just the league alone and or their family members, people they know. So I'm not personally spending any money on marketing, but people that I partner with, maybe that's ways that they apply their funds. I'm trying to do the best I can. I also work for the Summer Youth Employment Program with the Department of Labor. So through their TANF program, this tournament will also create local jobs because I can hire on 10 to 15 kids and they'll get paid 8 hours for each day, Saturday and Sunday. So I didn't mention that, but the tournament immediately creates jobs. I'm going to be recruiting volunteers as well through my tournament, and I'm doing different types of fundraisers to fund the tournament itself, as in like every person that's participating in the tournament will receive a free t-shirt, and then there'll be sponsors on the back. So it kind of, you know, it's walking marketing.
Yeah, do you mind if I just embellish a little bit?
Sure.
The closure of Main Street that is expected to happen at 7 p.m. on Friday and stay closed until 7 p.m. on Sunday. So from Chestnut Street to Elm Street. So the expectation is by doing that you won't have to, you know, redo the lines, and it's going to save you maybe an hour or two's worth of work in the early morning, certainly on Saturday. It's the same is true on Sunday. That's going to allow the restaurants to be able to bring their tables out onto the sidewalk, not onto the street, and maybe leave them there for a length of time, including the mornings of Saturday and Sunday. So that's just, I don't know that you covered that, but I wanted to make sure that the council was aware.
Sure, I've got a question.
Yes, sure.
Since this is a new event, am I correct that the council needs to vote on the permit for this? And then in future, if you're successful and you come back year after year after year with it, then the council doesn't necessarily need to approve it. It's just approved through the clerk's office.
Right. Can answer that.
Yeah, that's how we typically handle new street closure type events. Pre-take subsequent process to introduce the idea. Once it's approved, it's not substantially changed the next year. It's held.
So I would assume that this will come up for a vote very soon.
Right, we could opt, the council could opt to vote on that tonight. We have a motion prepared. If you're prepared for that, which we could share. We're ready for that now.
I would support it.
I think it's great.
We're doing another event for our kids in the local area.
I think the only concern I have is exactly what Emily brought up that I didn't even think about, where with windows and all, that I would trust that between you and Greg, I think you can come up with a solution.
And well, I think that is kind of my only concern is that, you know, I'm also very accident prone, so like I've gotten hit by basketballs many times in my life, and like, I don't know, like I guess it's more just like a liability, like what is covering that? Like if in the event,
One of his
up to it, it's up to independent
Provide an
insurance.
Event insurance policy,
Well,
naming the city.
I mean, I don't know, I mean, you know, it's a lot of money for local businesses to kind of cover that type of thing, you know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, and I mean, people tend to think that everyone has insurance and, you know.
What I'm
just
saying is we
covering-
will require him to have insurance.
Yeah.
He will have insurance.
Yeah.
He will have insurance in order
Okay.
to allow, in order to get the permit, we require all party entities who use the city.
Enough said.
To provide insurance, naming both them as having insured plus naming the city as insured.
Okay,
So if there are any
Perfect.
negative events, they are covered by insurance.
So,
okay, perfect.
and also I think the courts are lined up so that the ball travel is going up and down.
Right.
Main Street, not towards the businesses.
Sure. Okay, no, I mean, otherwise, that was my only concern, otherwise, I'm definitely in full support, I think it's really fun, and I think it's a great thing.
Any other questions or comments?
Just a concern, and this is minor, but I would be a little concerned about the 7 PM road closure with the restaurants. And we could push that back just a bit to be able to provide time for those guests to be able to get out and that would be my only concern. I don't have any problem with that. That's probably a good sweet spot for restaurant owners.
Greg, that's a possibility.
I think that's something to talk about. So we wrote the motion and carry over in a moment. To include in their delegating authorization to the city administrator to modify the permit as may be necessary based on our discussions with department head. So I think that's something you can look at. See, there's downtown streetlights on Main Street, they're very bright, it's almost like they light at night. All the way, so I think as far as like of course, if you're gonna do that night, can probably work.
It's a good point. Any other comments or questions? All right, then we may find ourselves later on in the meeting, or do we want to attack it now? I can't.
Do I need a motion yet or not yet? Do I motion?
Yeah, sure. So the motion would be that the common council approves the event street closure permit application of Blendos LLC for the Blendorama Indoor Assisted Basketball Tournament event to be held downtown on July 23rd and 24th, 2022 as presented. The common council further authorizes the city administrator to make any necessary permit modifications based on future planning meetings with city staff and the applicant.
Luke, are you gonna make a motion?
I will make the motion.
Seconded by Lynn. Any further discussion? No, then in that case, get the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Murphy?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Yes.
Councilmember Risberger?
Yes.
Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Councilmember Henning?
Yes.
Councilmember Raptor?
Yes.
Councilmember Butler?
Okay.
That motion passes.
Oh, thanks.
Good luck. See you guys on the evening for anything else? Nice day, everyone. Or night.
Thank you.
Now, we are looking at a presentation for Pico Fest.
Yes. Sorry. Hi, my name is Anna Rutenbeck. I'm the project coordinator at Otsego County Conservation Association, which is part of the Susquehanna Headwaters Environmental Collaborative, which is a new group that we've been spearheading to get a variety of different environmentally focused organizations working together on common projects. And one of those projects, which I would like to bring to you today, is our proposed Eco Fair on July 9th, 2022 in Neowalk Park. And the request has already gone to the Parks and Recreation Commission in February, and they supported the event pending all necessary paperwork and approval with city officials. We also have our certificate of insurance, and that's been filed with Lou Lansing in the Parks Department. And you can see here, I have a list of the different elements of the event. We are planning on this being an all-day event with a vendor fair, live music, and entertainment in the park during the day, followed by a ticketed dinner, which is going to be a crab boil with Chesapeake Bay crabs in the evening. It's a very family-friendly event, and we are aiming to have a number of activities focused on children
including an ecological puppet show from Arm of the Sea Theater. We have also secured a Birds of Prey presentation, a juried eco art competition, native plant gardening activities, and food trucks. And because of the environmental focus of the event, we're going to be requiring food trucks to use compostable food service items. And if individual vendors can't supply those themselves, we have a partnership with Cooperstown Natural Foods. And so we will help them with bulk ordering compostable supplies. So it's really important to us that this is a low waste event. We had a meeting last Thursday with members of the Parks Commission, the chiefs of the fire and police departments, and Lou Lansing from the Parks Department, and they were all supportive of the event, pending approval and required permits. And we will be staffing the event with OCCA staff as well as a number of volunteers. Lou Lansing has been working with us very closely to make sure that everything we're doing makes sense within the park and to make sure that we're using all of the resources to the best of our ability. So everyone should have a sheet about EcoFair in front of you, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions from Council Martin, please.
Thanks, Anna. Just see in your little description of Neola roadway, can you explain which roadways will be utilized?
Yeah, so it's the area around basketball court number 1. If you're familiar with the roads on the side of that area, there's going to be an electric vehicle car show. So we're going to have the cars parked on the outside of that kind of hexagon. And I can't remember the name of the road right now. But the main road through Neola is going to remain open. And the roadways that we are interested in using are the ones with the new electrical hookups. So, yes.
Can I follow up on that?
Of course.
You've also requested the caboose. What's that mean exactly?
That's an area within the park.
So the area you're not going to be accessing the caboose.
No, we won't. We don't have plans to utilize the actual caboose, but the green space around the caboose.
Any other questions from council? What?
Is this going to be an annual event?
We're hoping that will be an annual event pending the success of this one.
Other questions, comments? Luke, I'm sorry.
The ticket dinner, is that gonna be in the park itself?
It is, yes.
Okay.
And there is an Oneonta Outlaws game that evening that we are aware of and that Gary from the Outlaws is aware of, and we're excited about the opportunity for some cross promotion there. So our plan is to have the dinner pretty much wrapped up by tea time for the game.
Yes, Luke.
Yeah, just a comment. Anna, thank you for coming tonight. This seems really exciting, and I wish I could have said this earlier. But I didn't think of it. I think that this is really great. We have so many presenters coming tonight. Looks like we're going to have a pretty nice summer. So thank you for the invitation.
Just add one more thing if I could. Yeah, thank you, Anna. I've been a little critical of OCCA in the past for different reasons, but I think they've been really isolated up in Cooperstown. So I'm really happy to see OCCA sponsoring a bigger event down here and kind of moving this kind of into something I think is great. So certainly excited by it, and like Luke said, looking forward to it. So thank you.
All right. If there are no other questions or comments from council, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Now, moving on now to a third. We're very efficient here. We have a motion ready. And Scott's already going to jump on it. And Dave's going to jump on it. Do we want to read the motion?
It seems like I got a blank check.
Only Greg and I know what's written here.
Yeah.
Motion that the common council approves the event to be held in Newark Park on Saturday, July 9, 2022, hosted by the Czech and known as the EcoFest. Common council further authorizes the city administrator to make any necessary permit modifications based on future planning meetings with city staff.
Still make the motion.
Sorry, just a quick, it's EcoFair.
Oh,
sorry, we have another event called Earth Festival, so we're trying to keep it separate, so Eco Fair.
Thank you.
This is separate than Eco Fest.
Yes, Earth Festival is a separate event. Yes, although that event no longer really exists, so this is kind of a replacement in an effort to branch out and, yes, sorry.
Thank you for that clarification. We had a motion, we got a second, we got a third, we got a fourth. So with that, if unless there's further discussion, doesn't appear that there is.
Councilmember Lenny,
Aye.
Councilmember Davies,
Yes.
Councilmember Ritzberger,
Aye.
Councilmember Carson,
Yes.
Councilmember Harrison,
Yes.
Councilmember Raptor.
Yes.
Councilmember Falco.
Passes. Thank you very much. And at this point, I think we have the Greater Mohawk Valley Land Bank present for a presentation. We could.
Hi, I brought some handouts too. I brought 9 sets. Is that enough? That works. Should I give them to the clerk or?
We could cut it from.
I just wanted to.
They're alternating directions.
So. Wait,
So
what
just
do I
take-
take? This
Yeah,
one?
this one here. Puzzle camper.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yeah.
This is mine.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? You get one and half.
yeah. Take a stack.
There you go.
There's 3, So I'm Tom Morowski. I'm the executive director of the Land Bank. I've met some of you before. It's been a couple of years. Before I get started, I first wanted to thank Judy, who was on our board for several years. And she was really pivotal in helping us kind of do a lot of the growing and kind of getting started that we originally done. And now Stephen is on our board. And both of their appointments are really thanks to Dave Bliss and Meg Kennedy at the county. So they allowed the city, we felt at the land bank, it was important to have the city as one of the biggest populations where you're dealing with vacant properties. So we felt that was important. Thank you. So in here, you have 3 of our newsletters. We've been coming out with these over the last year. And I would encourage you to just take a look at them when you have a chance, but this is just an opportunity to give you some updates in these. We've been doing some really great things. One of those programs we've been working on is the Zombie 2 grant, which the city was a participant in. Again, Judy was a big help on that. So what we did is inventories of blighted properties. We worked a lot on Article 19A, which is a legal proceeding for foreclosing on abandoned property. So we did some projects in Cherry Valley. We had a burned out house, places where the person had passed away. So that's something to consider. We've really gotten good at the Article 19A process. So if you have a property that's really a problem, it's something that it's a tool in the toolbox that we can use to get access to those and then demolish the properties. So we've done about a dozen of those now. It's a very handy tool. We're also working with some affordable housing developers to do some larger developments. So we're looking at between 20 and 50 units in different communities. So that's something we're doing. We're working with Habitat over on Cherry Street. We tore down 18 Cherry. That's a property where Habitat, I believe, is going to put in a 2-unit. We've been working on closing for that property. We're hoping it's going to close in the next couple weeks. There were some title issues. A lot of these foreclosed properties have a lot of title problems. So some of them have taken as much as 18 months for us to get resolved because you'll have a laundry list of liens and debts and different issues. Also, the county recently has restarted foreclosures. So they've recently transferred 50 and 62 Elm Street. Those aren't completed yet, but those are in the process. So those were properties that were identified by Stephen and the city that were problematic, had water leaks and other issues, and have been kind of languishing. So the hope is that we can either do rehabs of those or do what's called a sale with scope, which is we'll go through the property top to bottom, say what's wrong with it, and then any interested buyer would have to go through and repair all those things within a year to get it up to codes. If they don't get it done in that time period, we claw the property back and we sell it to another owner Unlike the tax auction process where it's really just luck of the draw. You might get a speculator, you might get an out-of-town buyer, somebody that might not, care about the outcome for the neighborhood. We definitely lean towards owner occupants so that we're getting somebody that's going to live in the community, not somebody that's doing college rentals. Not that there's anything wrong with college, but we want somebody that's in the house. So those are kind of the big kind of overarching pieces. A couple of things to mention for kind of the horizon is now that we're selling properties, New York State has a part of the Land Bank Act is called the 550. And what that is, I might have talked to you in prior meetings, but that allows the city to share 50% of the tax revenues on any properties that we put back on the tax rolls. So for example, 18 Cherry, or if and when 50 and 62 Elm Street get back on the tax rolls, we would be able to share that revenue for 5 years if you pass such a resolution. That's something I can share. We have a model law. I can share it with the city. But the goal is to be able to fund our operations and make it sustainable going forward. A lot of our funding came from the Attorney General's office, from foreclosure settlements from 2008 and 2009 with the big banks. And so the goal is long-term, making it so we can continue to do this work, when those settlement funds run out. So I think those are the big kind of touchstones, but I'm happy to answer any questions or, get more into details if you have any questions on anything. Or
Questions from the council? Are these the only 3 properties that you're currently looking at in the city going up?
Not necessarily. We have quite a list we put together with Stephen, but part of that is availability. So in addition to working on tax foreclosures, we also work with banks on bank foreclosures, and we also accept donations. So one of the big ways we get properties is, let's say, a next of kin, somebody passes away, they leave the house to their next of kin. They're off in California, they don't want it. So we get a lot of those where it's possibly donated. It also things like probate sometimes, if there's no next of kin, that's another possibility. But part of that is we only can get, we put together a list. We have a list, I think, of 12 properties in the city, but we kind of have to wait till those become available to then grab them, if we can. And so having Meg Kennedy on our board, she's our board chair, she's the deputy chair of the county board. She's able to really make a strong case working with Stephen that it's a priority to get positive outcomes. Because what happens is like with 18 Cherry Street, I think there was $27,000 worth of back taxes on the property. But what Meg was able to advocate for is, in the past, I believe the county would require the city or somebody to pay those back taxes from make-good payments. And so she made the case that this positive outcome, getting that house not only torn down, but also something new to be built there, is worth more than that one-time shot in the arm of the $27,000, because you're never going to get that. Nobody's going to buy that at auction and say, let me go in and tear this down and incur $50,000 worth of cost, because we abate asbestos, we deal with lead, we do everything the right way. So it helps kind of invest more into the community. So we do have a list, and the way we work is we also try to reinvest 50% of our proceeds when we do sell a property back into the community. Now with 50 and 62 Elm Street, we're looking at between $100,000 and $150,000 worth of investment in those properties to get them back to where they need to be. So there will be significant investment in the city, and then that should manifest itself in proceeds that will allow us to do more projects in the city. So does that answer your question? Yeah.
Any other questions, comments from council? Tolga, we have a commission that is specifically set up to address housing, and I'm going to ask that perhaps a few months from now, as they are kind of getting their charge figured out, that maybe reached out to make a presentation to a group that's more specifically engaged in that problem.
Absolutely, yeah, we'd love to, yeah,
Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you, yeah, appreciate it.
Right. So with that, we move on to boards and commission reports. And we'll start with the housing commission.
I'm having a really bad deja vu here. I feel like I gave this report already for some reason, but we met on March 2nd. And we had a presentation by the New York State Refugee Resettlement Program. I'm gonna ask that you guys go to our YouTube channel and do that, because I am not gonna be able to do that program justice by trying to talk about it. And it was probably half an hour, 40 minutes of presentation. This is something that they're doing up in Utica, and they've had fairly good luck with it. But they're also a bigger population than what we are. They also talked about some of the challenges as well as resettlement. Some of the stuff that they brought up, like one of the things they did bring up was a lot of them suffer from like a post-traumatic stress from all this movement and stuff. And the one thing that I started thinking about was, do we have resources enough for that to help get them through and over the hump and stuff. But it's a really good presentation, so I'm just gonna say, just go watch it, and you know, because probably all your questions can be answered right off of that. She's also was nice enough to, when Chairman May asked, can we come up and you know, you take us around and how to do stuff, and she absolutely, without hesitation, said yes. She welcomes us. Other than the building right now is under construction, so I'll handle that. But then Mayor Drenick was there. He addressed the commission. He wanted to provide a little bit of direction, what he in the city feels is important because of the goal of trying to bring 1,000 people into the city. And you know, a lot of ways we have to do that is with housing. And he's was looking at fair market housing. I forgot the phrase you used. It's like chew gum and walk at the same time. We're gonna do, you know, look at everything, market rate housing plus everything else. So that nothing's gonna be cut. We're gonna have to do everything together. So from low income all the way up to high, you know, where we end up. There's part of the thing is trying to make sure we get people here, a good place to live, and try to bring with them work at the same time while working. And get the working class and try to help position the city for the future. Chairman May also issued the charge of the commission again to have them look at that for the next meeting to see where we need to go, what we need to do, and make sure that we're meeting what the council has set forward when we did make the commission. I gotta write better. I'm sorry, guys. We discussed the whole thing of trying to build housing, our limitations with what land that we have, whether we can or cannot work with the landlords to try to turn over some rental properties towards working families versus just college. Looking at our land that we own, if we sell it, what we can sell, and work with Greg on that, which lands we absolutely need versus what we don't need. Then we also found out that Joan Fox was working on some maps with the county and stuff, and found out that there's about 40 properties that are 1 acre or bigger that are potential building lots, which is, you know, was a surprise that we found that much, and there could be more. She's just starting to work on that, so that was pretty encouraging there. And then it was also brought up little bit about the development going on. I know Lynn, you brought this up before about the Chestnut Street with the developer there and the fact that they're taking the old school and they're working and they found how to work it and could possibly get more housing in there. So that was basic of the.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have Mark Davis?
Thanks, Scott. With regards to the 40 acres, is that in the city of Oneonta that are larger lots that could be subdivided for other housing that you're saying?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions for Scott? Thank you very much. We'll move on to the Board of Public Service and Councilmember Clark.
You'll be pleased to hear that we've had a very short agenda this past meeting. We met on March 3rd. All members were in attendance and there was only one item this month. It was an administrative appeal from 29 Burnside Avenue, excuse me. It was regarding failure to have adequate smoke and heat detectors and alarms. The appeal was denied and a fee was issued. There were some other things coming up for next month, but I don't think that it's necessary unless you really want to hear it. I think it can wait until next month. And the next meeting will be April 7th.
Questions for? No. All right. The Public Arts Commission, Katie LaPorrie-Shu is not with us for this meeting. Don't know that anybody else would have attended that. No. So I think we'll dispense with that and move on to our Commission on Community Relations and Human Rights. Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks to technology and our city clerk, I was able to follow this meeting. I was not in attendance personally, but was able to watch through YouTube. So this was a special meeting of the Commission on Community Relations and Human Rights. They met on the 10th to discuss kind of our flagship award, which is the Trailblazer Award. This year we have 4 winners of the Trailblazer Award. They are Kate Simeon of the Orpheus Theater, Marcella Refugee of the Greater Oneonta Historical Society, Joyce Miller, who has worn many hats over the years throughout the community. Most recently, the maybe 12-year chair of the commission, close to that. On community relations and human rights, as well as Noelle Clinton Peak, who has also been a community advocate wearing many hats. The Trailblazer Award is for women that are really that live within the city of Oneonta and are really sounds paving the way, making big strides. There will be a award ceremony at what year? What am I thinking? Foothills, thank you, Foothills on the 31st, and we hope to see folks there. It should be a great event. Last year we had it here, and it was a great event, but so many people, it's a little bit crowded. So our chair Shannon McHugh was able to expand, or rather reach out, and we'll be at Foothills this year on the 31st
of March.
March, yes, thank you.
Any questions, comments for Luke? No, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Moving on to Legislative Committee report, John Raptor.
Yes, we met on March 7th, and we considered 2 laws that were, in a sense, championed by Lynn Carson, but also written by our city attorney. And just to summarize, taking from one of them, the first section, it is applicable. And these have to do with the city of Oneonta here in the docks. This local law to provide for the exemption of multiple dwellings constructed or substantially rehabilitated in a benefit area set forth herein from taxation and special ad valorem levies, but not special assessments as authorized by section 421 in the state of New York real property tax law. Essentially, this provides for incentives for people who are rehabilitating or construct or building properties that would and incentivize the investment in these by reducing or handling some forgiveness or no need to pay certain taxes for a period of time. This needs to be weighed.
Just need tonight.
It's just being weighed tonight to rest.
It's on your email.
Lullabies can go on, but this has been laid on, read it, and we'll be voting on it at the next council meeting. Any questions?
Any questions for John? I'll just comment that, yeah, this was championed by Lynn Carson. Also, to note the fact that this is one of the first successes of the Economic Development Committee, and in conjunction with the Legislative Committee, doing something that I think is going to be significantly important to owning out to as we try to expand our housing. So thank you to all. With that, we'll move to Lynn Carson and the Finance and Human Resources Committee report.
We met March 7th. All committee members were in attendance. And what's new for everybody? We set a record. We normally go 3.5 hours. 12 minutes.
Short.
So before you are motions 3 through 8, get 3 through 8, showing the work of vetting that the committee did. If there's any questions,
Any questions? Lynn? No. Thank you very much, Lynn. And then moving on to our final committee report, Community Wellness Committee met, and Councilmember.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll give you a brief review of episode 3 of the Community Wellness. The full episode is previewing right now on YouTube. You can watch it there. However, for the brief review, we met first with the chiefs, and thank you, Chief Matt, for your attendance, and Chief Richardson, who went over some of the different issues that they were encountering with regards to some of our homeless population and some of the challenges there with regards to all types of things, mental health. Frankly, I found it interesting that one of the things that has been drawing some folks to particular areas is the need for electricity to use to plug their phones in. So that was quite interesting. We reviewed a survey that Councilmember Murphy created and discussed how we'll be getting that moving forward. It was well done. It was a great survey. We had a few more tweaks, but we're going to get that moving forward to community partners shortly. We reviewed the work of Councilmember Falco, who did an extensive job looking at municipalities and reviewing some of their particular programs around homeless. And we hope to have you kind of give us your thoughts about that in the next meeting.
Yes, definitely for sure.
Great. And then we also reviewed our kind of developing advisory group, and went through some different participants that will be on that. There were some members of the community that came, and we were adding them to it. So I think we're making good progress on developing an advisory group who will advise us. We also had a discussion about trying to capture the energy right now that seems present around this particular issue and putting together some type of summit for different groups to begin to think about how we might look for gaps of coverage and opportunities for movement and kind of working together moving forward on particular issues. So that is it. Any questions?
Question, Lynn?
did your commission find value in the Chestnut Street? I don't think it's a code blue. I think it's an emergency shelter for folks that in the cold months they can take refuge in that building. Did you guys find value in that program?
We weren't looking right now we weren't looking at programs and valuing or not. We've certainly been trying to understand what programs are out there, what they do, and really trying to get our arms around it. It seems that for right now that particular warming station plays a very important role for some people. The emphasis there is that some folks might not want to go into that particular shelter for one reason or another. And some people have been banned from going to that shelter from past because of past behavior. So it meets the needs for some. It might not meet the needs for all. And I think what we've come to realize, at least I've come to realize, I'll speak for myself, these folks, there's very different needs and very different problems and issues that each person has. So there's a lot of different things going on here that we need to begin to tackle, but they're all connected. So again, we weren't trying to put value on anything, we're just trying to understand what's out there in our community for now.
I know that living on that end of town, I see them lining up. I think they're allowed in at 4:30 or somewhere around there. I see them literally on the cold days, they're lining up to get in there. So for me as a resident, I see the value of that warming station. I know that there's been some issues with the roof. I don't know if your commission is going to go into the part where if these programs need financial assistance, how do we get it there?
Well, first of all, we're committee, not commission, but we're gonna certainly try to understand what the needs of our different community partners are and what role the city can play in helping to meet some of those needs or to kind of facilitate conversations around those needs. So I think that's kind of where we're going.
Right.
We don't have the capability to be able to kind of go in there and tell them what to do, but hopefully facilitating the conversation, understand what these needs are, is gonna be at least a first step in the right direction. And I understand that there's only 8 beds there in the warming station. I was surprised. I thought it was more than that. It's right now 8, and that they are filled almost every night. Right. Yeah, again, and there's a waiting list, and then there's also people who are not able to use that for different reasons, or they're not choosing to use it for different reasons. Any other questions?
Stephen.
I just wanted to add to the discussion of the warming station. So that is a whole blue station. That was part of it. That facility is not intended to be like a sleeping, like an overnight. It's those cots in there will just kind of sit, maybe take a nap. It's not intended to be like an overnight, like a shelter where you like sleep or stay for an extended amount of time. It's basically intended to be a spot where you can come in, stand around, maybe lay down for a couple minutes on a cot, and because there were some issues with fire safety requirements for buildings where people are being housed. So it should just be stressed it's not a housing station. It's just a come in, I think when it's under 32 degrees. Okay.
Good. Thank you. Is there any other comments or questions for? No. Thank you very much. So with that, we'll move to the city administrator's report.
Current opportunities, we're accepting applications for bus drivers, surprise. We're currently seeking up to 5 part-time positions, 2 full-time positions. Bus drivers. We're also looking for civilian dispatchers in the police department, 2 part-time and 1 full-time. Brought on at least 1 part-time. We're also looking for part-time construction which will help out throughout the construction season projects such as West Street construction. During last week's power outage due to the windstorm, Fire Chief Knapp had coordinated with the Lord's Table at 18 Elm Street, who had agreed to offer meals and water to anyone who's without power due to the storm. I just wanted to extend a thank you to them for making that available. I'm not sure how many people took advantage of it, but I believe some did. There were about 350 city residents in different areas that were without power for up to 20 hours. Police and fire personnel participated in the formal Mayor Brenner's calling hours and funeral service on Friday and Saturday acting as an honor guard. Wayfinding signage is a DRI project that's funded through New York State TOS. After many rounds of reviews and modifications, the city has approved the order of 49 new wayfinding signs to be installed at various locations throughout the city. U-Haul Park Phase 2 electric infrastructure is on the agenda tonight to award a bid for that project. Assuming that bid is awarded, work will start sometime in April, should be hopefully completed depending on time for electrical equipment in June or July this summer. So we'll have to be paying attention to when those events such as the Shack Festival and the July 4th festivities to coordinate that. If we're lucky, we can get it done before that. The Newell Park paved pathway project, drawings for that are nearly complete, being done by our engineering department. Expect what performance will come next week. That's the project that the Future for Young Foundation has pledged to support to the tune of $50,000. The remainder of we're estimating $100,000, so a total $150,000 project. Pending bid prices would come from city ARPA funding. So that's something we'll be moving forward this year. That's to pave the existing footpaths that go from Elon Place along Mill Race through the wooded area behind the Maskey Field and connects the existing paved pathway that goes along Mill Race toward Catella Park. So we extend that underneath the bridge into Catella Park and then along the tree lines, basically along Lettuce Highway to connect to the existing gauge hills over to the line. So that's that portion being combined by that's good. Just in the future, I think as we develop our local waterfront revitalization plan, which is also ongoing, this is something that, especially given the support from the Going Down Foundation and others in the community, it's something that we'd be able to hopefully apply for additional funding to keep extending that trail, building on that resource. West Street reconstruction, the pre-construction meeting will be this week, next week, I'm sorry, letter to residents drafted will be sent out very soon as well. Preliminary schedule shows work starting around the first week.
First week, he approves it.
Projects we have ongoing, the lower reservoir intake structure access bridge, that's where the gates valves are to intake the city's water supply from the lower reservoir, bring to the plant. That bridge has been manufactured, is ready for delivery installation by Eastern Associates. Parallel transmission main, that project was mostly completed last year. Now the spring's coming back around. We've got some punch lists that to complete to close that project out. Railroad Avenue Park sanitary sewer replacement. That project is more than halfway complete. Construction should be to any week now for the pending. So we're making a portion of 12-inch main and some manhole. You may have noticed on Center Street near Gulf Ave, where Center Street crosses the Onion Creek. There's a barricade there, a top block, concrete block. That's due to an inspection that we did of that bridge that identified a weak concrete plank that needs to be replaced. So we've been working to order that plank. That's another supply issue, but once that's here, we'll have that replaced. It's relatively minor project, but something that's been in the works for a while. Heavy on the infrastructure updates tonight. You're enjoying that. West Street PRVs, these are pressure reducing valves. These are special valves that are existing to maintain the pressure within our water distribution system. They're critical pieces of infrastructure, and they're one of these on Upper West Street near the Stuco maintenance building needs to have some valves replaced. That work's happening this week. There should be a temporary water bypass, and no customer should be out of water for an extended period of time. The wastewater plant upgrade, we've had some electrical and SCADA issues recently. Those are being worked out with the contractor and manufacturer, and some other punch list items being completed, but the project is nearly full and complete. And then lastly, I wanted to mention, at the beginning of this year, we had done some office reorganization down the first floor of City Hall, involving our planning folks, our community development, and our code enforcement, and also our city clerk and the mayor. And we knew going into that, I knew going into that it wasn't gonna be a perfect solution, that we may need to identify issues as they come up along the way and possibly readjust. And I think that's been the case. We've talked with the department heads involved, we've talked with some staff involved. And I think we've identified a need to make an additional change. The issue that really is at the forefront is the need to have both the city clerk and the deputy clerk together and have the clerk functions at one location. We thought we might be able to work with the separation that's there now, but I think it's problematic. And then on top of that, the fact that there are two functions of city business operating through one public transaction window, which is at the front. We thought that might be beneficial by having one point of access for the public, but it's been a little problematic for the staff to be able to realistically, how do you know who's there for what purpose? So there's a little bit of a friction there that's tough to overcome with multiple interactions, multiple departments interacting the same window. Overall, my charge as city administrator, I believe a big part of that is just making sure and trying to support our departments and staff in operating most efficiently. And given the feedback that I've received and what I've observed myself, I think we do need to change. So what I would like to suggest to that end would be moving the deputy clerk into the back office where the city clerk is now, which is where code enforcement previously was last year. code enforcement remaining where they are, and community development remaining where they are. This would consolidate the clerks into one office, so I think allow for a better service to the public. And also move that confusion that may exist up front with the one window services functions. And then my other suggestion in this scenario would be to essentially swap the mayor and the city administrator's office. I would move down into the back office suite, on the first floor with the clerks. I think that would allow for a more smooth and it really build upon our relationship, our ability to work together. I think that's somewhat problematic now. And I think it would also provide a nice, corner office for the mayor upstairs where it's accessible and there has been a demonstrated success in using that office by the mayor. Some other considerations for the future, time attached to them would be potentially a physical improvement of the window area that's would be to the clerk's office. It's a bit tight now with the elevator right there. I think there might be some physical modifications to the door and the window there to just open it up a little bit so that there's just a little bit more of an open, welcoming, and accessible entrance. So those are the recommendations I have at this point. I know the last time we went through this, maybe I could have communicated better to the council, had a little feedback before we went forward with it. So I want to give an opportunity tonight to see if the council had it. That was all I had.
Greg, I would still go forward with what I was recommending. One of my future goals is to hopefully do some kind of a space study of the overall space here in City Hall, because I think we need to look to see if there's other changes to be made internally. But I think what you're saying makes sense. I think having both the code office and the clerk's office up front is going to create confusion. I think separating them is the right thing to do. As everybody knows, the mayor's office for years was down where Judy is right now, until we went to the city manager form of government before we switched to the city administrator. And it was Dick Miller originally that pulled himself out of what's now Judy's office and brought himself upstairs, which was arguably probably the nicest office in City Hall. And that was the mayor's office. So I would be in full agreement with making this change. I think it's what I support you. I think whatever we need to do to make City Hall function the best way that it can.
Yeah, I would usually say I agree, probably with what Dave said, and it's more for me about improving communication between department heads or department head equivalents, making sure that the clerk's office is a united office, makes sense to me, and that you're able to work with them more closely, it makes sense. And like you said, we tried something early on, it's not going as well, and I give you credit for looking for ways to improve the function in City Hall. So that's part of your charge as city administrator and our support on it.
Any further comments?
I think my only concern would be wayfinding within City Hall to make sure that the public can find that back window. My first tension would be a little bit where you go, right? The first one is pretty obvious, but having wayfinding signs for the city clerk and the back would be certainly helpful for those that are first time into this building. Thanks for trying to address that problem. Sure.
The only other question I would have is what's the timeline on something like this?
I don't have a specific timeline involved. I don't think it, because I don't believe there's any construction involved. I think the window modification is something we can look at with our folks to see when that might happen in the future. I think this really shouldn't take very long as a matter of people and some passes in the office space. So
Are we talking
I'd
about?
like to kind of coordinate with those involved and see, I think, this month.
Okay.
Any other comments?
I just wanted to say thank you, Greg, for communicating this with council and the public forum because it affects the public. And that it's good to hear that you're also communicating, not saying what you did before, but that you're still communicating with all those that are affected by this. So thank you.
One more thing, if I could return back to me earlier, just kind of FYI for you, so save me email, saves you receiving an email. You mentioned that pathway down, kind of parallel to West Highway that terminates where that gate is. That gate's gonna rip off the hinge at some point this winter time, so, you know, it needs to be replaced, or I think it's just probably needs to have the hinge replaced.
It was in the fall.
So,
Yeah, it was a screw that broke off, and so the whole thing just collapsed and then bent over.
yeah, so it's sitting there.
Scott.
Greg, I just want to thank everybody involved down in the sixth ward, since we had I think probably most of the power outage in the city. I know that people sat there just about around the clock. And I know you and DPW made multiple calls to NICEAG to try to expedite the repair down there. And I just would like to remind people that live in the sixth ward in the city of Moniana and myself have no control over NICEAG. We're at the mercy of NICEAG, and as much as we put pressure on NICEAG to try to get them to put the city first, and they went to where they were affected most. But just to cruise the amount of time and just to sit in one spot, and you know, it was nice to see the presence down there, and you know, it was really the effective spot in the city.
And certainly just to jump on that, and so please fire as well, working with DPW throughout the day.
Yeah, everybody involved. It's a blanket thank you to everybody, because I'm not gonna single anybody out because I would miss somebody, and I don't wanna do that. I don't wanna hurt anybody's feelings. I just know there's a lot of people. Appreciate it, so thank you.
Any other comments?
Infrastructure question, Greg. Where are we at with the culvert replacement for Main Street and Rosetta?
So that's been in the right of way acquisition phase for a while. That can take some time. I think we're nearing the completion of that. I believe we have agreements. The concept is not in writing with all four. I think there's one, maybe two remaining to be fully executed. So that's something that we're hopeful we can still bid that and award a contract sometime to complete it this year. DOT expressed some hesitation that we might end up looking at construction carried into the next year. But it's too early to tell for sure.
And then are they willing to increase the amount of money towards that, given that it's taken such a long period of time to get to this point and material costs keep going up?
We haven't asked that question since forward the project, if you recall. I'm not sure when that was.
It was 2020.
Okay, but was it this council in 2020? So this project was a $690,000 grant from New York State DOT for this culvert replacement. We estimate that it's going to cost around $1 million, maybe 1.1 more, depending on what you just mentioned. Right. That additional cost and gap above that funding amount we would have to pay from the city's general fund. I don't believe there's the ability to go back and get more funds through the existing grant program. Certainly ask that question again. That was our understanding back then. It's still my understanding today.
Any other questions, comments for Greg? We're going to dispense with the mayor's remarks and then go right into the consent agenda. So, number one, approval of the minutes. Motion that the common council approves the minutes of the regular meeting held March 1st, 2022. Two, approval of the warrants. Motion that the common council approves the warrants totaling $352,824.89 and that the same be placed on the Director of Finance's desk for payment as presented. Number three, motion that the common council appoints Cody Lozzi to the position of firefighter at a base annual salary of $39,009 IAFF Step 1 salary schedule E2 effective April 2nd, 2022, subject to the satisfaction of all applicable civil service requirements. Motion number four, that the common council appoints Nathan Dumont to the position of firefighter at a base annual salary of $39,009 IAFF AFF Step 1 Salary Schedule B2, effective April 2nd, 2022, subject to the satisfaction of all applicable civil service requirements. Number 5, that the common council appoints Sarah Flamel to the position of Community Development Assistant at a base salary of $40,762. That's a CSEA grade 11, effective March 16th, 2022, subject to the satisfaction of all applicable civil service requirements. The Commons Council further authorizes the mayor to execute memorandum of agreement with the CSEA Local 1000, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, City of Oneonta Unit 8101, formerly recognized in the title of Community Development Assistant, as part of the CSEA bargaining unit and allocating this title to a salary grade 11 as presented. Motion number 6, that the Common Council appoints Nicholas Michalowski to the position of police officer at a base annual salary of $41,000 PBA hiring rate without certification, effective March 21st, 2022, subject to the satisfaction of all applicable civil service requirements. Motion that the Common Council appoints Michael Halper to the position of police officer at a base annual salary of $41,000 PBA hiring rate without certification, effective March 21st, 2022, subject to the satisfaction of all applicable civil service requirements. And motion number 8, that the Common Council appoints Robert Frainer to the position of police officer at a base annual salary of $50,000 PBA 3-year rate, effective March 21st, 2022, subject to the satisfaction of all applicable civil service requirements. Are there any council members that would like to remove an article? No. All right, then, Councilmember
Let's make a motion, we accept the motions on the consent.
and Councilmember Davies. And so with no further discussion, we'll call vote.
Councilmember Murphy?
Aye.
Councilmember Davies?
Yes.
Councilmember Risberger?
Yes.
Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Raptor?
Yes.
Councilmember Caput? Aye.
General items for discussion, motion number 9. The result of the competitive bids being solicited and accepted for the Needle Park Underground upgrades phase 2, the Common Council approves the purchasing agent's recommendation to award the base bid to the lowest responsive qualified bidder, which is J&A Electrical Construction LLC of Barnveld, New York, in the amount of $83,000. And the council further authorizes the creation of the capital project budget in the amount of $90,000 to be funded with the American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funds. And the council further authorizes the necessary budget transfers and amendments. Do I have a motion to approve? So we've got Scott followed by Dave Risberger. Discussion? No discussion. So with that, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember Murphy?
Aye.
Councilmember Davies?
Yes.
Councilmember Risberger?
Yes.
Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Raptor?
Yes.
Councilmember Caput? Aye.
Motion number 10, that the Common Council authorizes the mayor to execute an amended contract for assessor services with Richard J. Maxwell of Utica, New York, for the period from March 16, 2022 through April 15, 2022, or until such time as the city can obtain a assessor in the amount of $1,500 per month, as reviewed by the city attorney. Do I have a motion to approve? Emily Falco, followed by Luke Murphy. Do we have discussion? Sorry. Len?
Oh. Are we still moving forward with the county being in this position?
Yes, the delay is due to the county had a staff turnover in their office. They asked if we could extend it a little further so they could bring someone new on board and get trained to be able to help us out with that civil plan. Obviously, Rich Maxwell's agreed to extend. They had asked if we could extend to the end of this month. We figured, let's go for the 15th, please authorize that so we can cover that.
So we're not anticipating we're going to be kicking this down.
No.
Scott, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I had the same question.
Same question. All right, any other questions?
Subject to amendment next month.
I just don't want to get.
Shoot that pass.
Right, but I mean, this, from your perspective, this is still a good avenue to move towards for shared services.
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
I was looking at
You're right over.
Yes.
You're over my data.
Nothing has changed other than timeline, as far as I understand.
So are there any further questions or comments? No. So with that, we'll take a vote.
Councilmember Murphy?
Aye.
Councilmember Davies?
Yes.
Councilmember Ritzberger?
Yes.
Excuse me. Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Raptor?
Yes.
Councilmember Falco? Aye. Passes.
Terrific. That takes us to motion 11, that the common council approves the mayor to execute the contract agreement subject to the review of the city attorney between James R. McElroy, contractor, and the Destination Oneonta funding entity, and the city of Oneonta for mural for Ford Sales Building artwork, with the contractor completing the statement of work in strict accordance with the contract documents for the sum of $1,000 to be paid by the funding entity. Do I have a motion to approve? Mark Davies, do I have a second? Emily Falco, and discussion.
I guess I was trying to understand the funding entity.
That's Destination Oneonta.
So we're paying $1,000.
Where you want
If I understand. So you need to pay.
I'm gonna ask us. We do.
any other questions on this? In that case, we'll call a vote.
Councilmember Murphy?
Aye.
Councilmember Davies?
Yes.
Councilmember Ritzberger?
Yes.
Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Raptor?
Yes.
Councilmember Falco? Aye. Passes.
That takes care of all of our motions in something like record time. Additional business or council discussion, do we have anything that we'd like to share with the group?
Do we want to come up with a time and date for the item that we listened to before this meeting? I don't think we kind of walked away from that meeting and didn't really set a benchmark. I just wanted to know if the council as a whole wanted to set that benchmark on it.
Can I ask Dave Mercick for some guidance on what specifically we're tasked to do here, that the council is tasked to do here outside of simply rendering a yes or no to the appeal?
The minimal obligation is to give a yes, no, either affirmative or non-affirmative. Understand that the next step after this, if it's the determination, or regardless, it might go to Article 78 proceeding. So a court in Article 78 proceeding always likes to understand what the rationale was behind the decision of the appellate board. So ideally, kind of like, because you're sort of sitting like a zoning board of appeals where someone's come to you on appeal. And again, we always ask the zoning board to put together what their rationale is. So on the motion, it would be most helpful, which it should be done by motion too, or by decision, that you articulate the things that was behind the rationale that the board members who voted either in favor or against had in their minds when they decided to either affirm or deny the decision of the electoral board.
And who would write that?
I can write it. I will be with you if you will let me. And we can have a conversation and you can articulate. And again, we would sort of put together a list of things that either a majority or the minority of the board stated that they agreed to or didn't agree to in coming to their vote. And then that would be represented in the decision. It would be represented in the motion or in the opinion that you asked me to put together for you to sign off on.
Is this a special meeting of council, or is this something that we might address?
It's technically a meeting of council, because the council is acting in a quasi judicial role, they can do it, they don't have to do it in open session. So, I mean, our zoning board, for example, usually does it in open session, but they have no obligation to do that. So although I was characterizing it as an executive session, it isn't exactly an executive session. But it's a session to do it. My suggestion would be that you do it sometime either before or after a council meeting, because everybody's here.
That was my next question.
And
So
hopefully it wouldn't take too long to do.
right, so then can we get a consensus that before our next council meeting, maybe we meet at 6:30, not 7 o'clock? This item and then.
So am I understanding this right, that we need to come to kind of like a straw vote and then develop the motion, which we then vote on later?
Correct. It's kind of you come to either a consensus or a non-consensus, and you develop a consensus one way or the other, and then again, we put together statements which either majority or minority of the council agreed to by voting one way or the other. For the motion, for the ultimate determination.
I feel comfortable having the initial discussion tonight, if anybody else feels the same.
I don't want a little bit more time, because to be honest with you, I'd like to go review that video.
Okay.
And the videos on YouTube also to carry that thing sensitively. So.
So again, David, I'm sorry.
No,
And again, that's what I was alluding to when I looked at you. I just want to make sure as this quasi judicial format, that I knew we were leaning towards a possibility of an Article 78. So I just want to make sure that we're doing everything right.
Sure.
And that we're not putting the city going on.
Well, and part of the concern is that as both you know and I can affirm, the council has never had a hearing of this type before. So we're kind of plowing the ground.
But that won't give us the excuse.
Well, at least we won't be violating our own rules.
So are we agreed that we'll meet a half an hour early at our next council meeting? We'll address this.
Yes, do we need more I don't have a clarity. I need to have more information from the people who've been charged as electricians to review the gravity of the problem, et cetera. I just.
Isn't that in the video?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, if you watch, the entire proceeding that you're reviewing was videoed and is on YouTube, and again, Carrie can give you the link. So you can watch what happened in real time, and then what you were doing is reviewing what the board did based on that hearing. Again, this is not a new proceeding. There shouldn't be new evidence added. This is looking at what the board did, and did they act reasonably based on what the information they had in the hearing that they held.
Carrie, can you do us all a favor and send out that link one more time when you have a moment?
All right, then we're agreed. We'll be prepared next meeting to address it half an hour prior to the meeting. Any other business or information for council? Yes.
I would just like to publicly thank our city Department of Public Works, with Chris Yacobucci and Jen Williams and staff. We had a stormwater issue at 12 Bronx Street. This has been kind of ongoing. The two supervisors and superintendent did an excellent job getting city staff there. And the residents, they have been insulted by stormwater on multiple occasions. And once you have that happen to you just once is bad enough. To have it happen multiple times, it was just good for Joanna and Jay to see multiple staff out there fixing the repair and finding out what the issue was, and they're very thankful at this point. So I just want to publicly thank our DPW staff for being out there. The guys, boots in the ground and down in the ditch, did a great job.
Anyone else? Correspondence. There is no correspondence. Is there a need for executive session? That's great. In that case, I'll take a motion to adjourn.